The one thing about Paul Goldschmidt winning the MVP was that I said this yesterday on the show. Paul Goldschmidt's going to go into the Hall of Fame, and I'm convinced of it. And I'm not going to get into a bunch of numbers, but they're there. And I say that knowing that he has to build on those numbers. I mean, it's not a complete case yet, but he's well on the way. Like if he averages about 2.6, 2.5 or 2.6 wins above replacement over the next 3 years, he will have met that threshold for first baseman to make the Hall of Fame. Like, what's their career wins above replacement? He'll be there. He'll be unofficially qualified at that point, but he's qualified now according to Bill James, who's got a new Hall of Fame value standard, and the score, if you will, to get into the Hall of Fame is 500, and Paul Goldschmidt already has 520. But you know the thing that amazes me about Goldie? You know, from 2013, try to follow me on this, and again, I know that some of you, after hearing the terrible news, probably don't want to hear about me talking baseball, but that's what I'm paid to do, which is trite, but I'm just saying. From 2013 through 2018, that's 6 seasons. It seems like 5, but it's 6 if you actually count it up. Only Mike Trout had more wins above replacement in the majors than Paul Goldschmidt. So for a 6-year period, he was second best player in the majors to Mike Trout. And remember, wins above replacement is offense, defense, base running. It takes in all aspects of the game. So he was the number 2 position player in baseball 2013 through 18. All right, so he comes to the Cardinals. 2019 was a solid year, but it was not anything close to the normal Goldschmidt year. His statistics by his standards were really like they're the lowest in all these different categories: batting average, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS plus. The lowest that he had in a full season in his career. They were not awful numbers. They just weren't up to his standards. And the question was, is he going into decline now? You know, because he's older. Well, I'll be damned. You know. So after 2009, it was a question like, okay, is Paul Goldschmidt going to hold up? Was this the beginning of a decline period? He goes, again, second best position player in baseball for 6 years, comes to St. Louis, first year's solid, nothing great, but solid. And it's like, well, that's not the Arizona version. And people were a little concerned. Now, since the start of the 2020 season, so that means the last 3 years, he's back to being the number 2 position player in baseball if you go by wins above replacement. And if you don't want to, that's okay. I respect your right to do so. I use the one thing I can find that'll sum up offense, defense, and base running. So since the start of the 2020 season, the only guy in the majors, position player-wise, who's got more wins above replacement is Aaron Judge. Goldie is second. So think about that now.
Wow.
Think about that. Now, since 2013, it's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, or 19, 20, 21, 22. We're talking 10 years. In 9 of those 10 years, he was the second best position player in baseball. He had one off year, but he immediately rebounded, and actually his performance the last 3 years were better than the performance he put together offensively in his last 3 seasons at Arizona. The difference being that he was 34 and he turned 35 late last season. When he put together his best seasons, he was a much younger man. And it's just incredible the way he has his consistency of quality and excellence is, I think, believe it or not, undervalued. I ain't talking about here. I think we all know how great the guy is. Mm-hmm. But I think it's undervalued. If you sort of look at the bigger picture, I mean, when you're number 2 in baseball, 2013 through 18, you have one down year, which is not a bad year, just down. And then you're right back at it, being the second best guy in baseball over another 3-year run. This This is a hell of a career the guy's having, is what I'm trying to say. And he somehow is getting better rather than getting worse as he ages. And, I know people, because that's the world we live in, everything's a conspiracy. But really, I don't think anybody works harder than him. I don't think anyone's got more pride or professionalism than him. He changed his whole batting stance because he was no longer mashing fastballs the way he wanted to. He reinvented his whole swing. He takes advantage of technology. He started using a different bat. I mean, he does not miss anything in the quest to improve. So you got to feel really good about his next few years as a Cardinal. You just have to, because he does not play to his age. And, speaking of age, his age 34 season, which was this past year, here, just to prove the thing I'm talking about, his age and how he's aged very, very well, which is good for the Cardinals and good for him. During the modern era, which began in 1900, here are the top 5 highest OPS plus figures posted by a Cardinal in a season age 34 or older, minimum 400 plate appearances. So these are guys that 34 years or older. Here are the 5 best seasons at that age. McGuire in 1998, Goldschmidt this year, McGuire in 1999, Stan the Man in 1957, and Jim Edmonds in 2004. So in this illustrious franchise history, incredibly illustrious franchise history, and since 1900, he had in 2022 the second best season by a player 34 years or older, offensively. And the guy let's be honest, the guy that is at the top of the list, although I like him very much, but we all know what was going on back then, So what we saw this season from Paul Goldschmidt really, really is something special. I mean, it really, truly is. So let's make sure that we appreciate it, and I know we do. And it was great to see him happy last night. It was great to see him smiling.
Oh, it was awesome. And, you gave the numbers earlier in the week. Or was it yesterday? I think it was, of all the stuff that he did this year. Only 4 guys in the history of Major League Baseball, and they are all 4 Cardinals that put together similar numbers to what he's done in the history of the game. And it's like, my goodness. And to your point, he has worked on making himself better. We know about the thing with the hockey puck on the bottom knob of the bat and the way that changed his, the way he went about his business this year. I mean, he's a smart player. And one of the stories that I remember, because Albert came back, and it was Danny McLaughlin who was talking about that, and said that when Paul met Albert for the first time, this was before this whole season took place, they got together out in Arizona one time. He said they talked hitting for like 4 straight hours at a coffee place. That just tells you how cerebral and how much he thinks of the game of hitting and how much he works at his craft with Albert Pujols. I mean, that's just right there. That's all I need to know, how focused he is on what's going on. He had a great year.
So I think we can look forward to, a lot more of this, because the way he's aging so gracefully. So I just wanted to pass a couple of those things along.